Okay, I wanted to talk about some projects we have going on here relating to the Chinese herbs. So we grow a lot of Chinese herbs here. We probably have the biggest collection, at least in the eastern part of the country. And one issue that comes up is just simply identification and confirming that we have the right plants. So we've acquired some nice items to help with that. This book, Plants of China, Companion to the Flora of China, which is now available in English online. The Flora of China is a massive undertaking, Harvard University and Missouri Botanic Garden, whatever. But this is just a lot of terrific background information, including chapters on medicinal plants, chapters on wild edible plants, the physiology, the soils, the climate of China. Terrific resource. As far as specifically looking at plant identification, this is a beautiful book, 3-volume series of these really splendid botanical illustrations for things that are currently in the Materia Medica, so it also helps with confirming. The names are constantly changing in Chinese medicine and every other branch of botany. So we use this quite a bit. Another good reference that we've had for a long time. This is the illustrated atlas of the commonly used Chinese Materia Medica. This one is a colored atlas of the Chinese Materia Medica, etc. This one is with photographs and a lot of microscopic images, but also photographs. Most of the text is in Chinese. I have a feeling that the Chinese text is more interesting than a little English summary. But this is helpful for identification, and sometimes even the photographs can give you clues about the habitat where the plant grows. So we're trying to grow a number of things that there's really no information in English about some of these plants. And certainly no information about how to grow them. This is recent Chinese medicinal plant identification. Nice picture of ginseng on the cover. That, by the way, is a really good example of a process that I made a video about, how you could harvest ginseng without killing it sometimes. So if you had a plant like this, you could sever it right there. This is the neck. When you get a root growing off the neck, then you can sever it, harvest this whole part, and replant this. There's the bud for next year, and it would keep going. Anyway, that's just a little aside. This is pretty good, but it's mainly pictures of the actual material that's in the herb shop. And as far as the plant itself, they give you this little thumbnail up here. Too bad. It's still helpful, but would have been nice to have a somewhat larger image there, but there's a good description of what the plant looks like. So those are some of the tools we use for trying to be sure we've got the right medicinal herbs. Now another project that we have going on relates to how to use our native herbs according to Chinese medicine, and this is a pretty lively topic. These are all books on that subject. So I've collected every book that comes out as far as I know, and I can run you quickly through the sources that we are utilizing. At one point I even made up a table to show what herbs are in what books. There's a nice introductory essay which I found online. Author Ben Broadhead, B-R-O-D-H-E-A-D, The Integration of Western Herbs into the Chinese Herbal Medicine Paradigm. And he summarizes the history of this movement and sort of reviews the different books. And my feelings about the different books and approaches is pretty much in line with his. I agree with his assessment, that is to say. This was off the website of SION, Seattle Institute of Oriental Medicine. I found the paper on there. Maybe it's still on there. So that's a nice introduction to the topic. Seems like the movement to do this started with Michael Tierra, who is a Chinese herb practitioner, and he brought out a book called Planetary Herbology, where he attempts to take all the medicinal herbs of the world, American Indian, European, Ayurvedic, Middle East, wherever, and put them into Chinese categories. So those are the categories I mentioned on a previous video when we stood in the herb shop and looked at the ways that the Chinese herbs are arranged, starting with released exterior and going on through the various topics, so the actions. So this is still one of our main sources. So he'll take native herbs like blue cohosh or so on and just pop them into their appropriate category. So, let's see. We have, this book is referenced quite a bit. The Energetics of Western Herbs by Peter Holmes. And it's in 2 volumes. And it's come out in several editions. This is the 4th edition. It's a pretty expensive book to jump into, but if you want to be satisfied with the 3rd edition, maybe you could get it pretty cheap. He's making an effort to integrate the Chinese 5-element system with the ancient Greek, Roman, classical 4-element system. And so he's coming up with his own intermediate kind of categories. But Holmes does treat, I opened up to goldenrod, which he's got in a category of promote urination and drain water. That's pretty equivalent to the Chinese category. Some of them are kind of intermediate, though. So Holmes is very useful. One drawback to Holmes is that everyone seems to notice is that everything is always good for everything, because he has a hard time leaving anything out. So when we talk about, say, the channels entered, one book will say this and one book will say that, but Holmes usually will have it entering 7 or 8 or 10 channels. Let's see. Thomas Avery Garon has 2 books out now. This came out a few years back, and this one, which is self-published just fairly recently. He's out in California, so native plants to him include a lot of California material, but he's also got just basic Western herbs. I just opened up to feverfew. Yeah, nice coverage. And then this one had quite a lot of Southern Appalachian herbs, actually, supplemented. And he's got a nice introduction where he explains how his process, his thinking about how to decide where to put the herbs. Reasoning and methods, it's called. And then he just starts through resolve exterior, clear heat, expel wind. Just takes you down the line of the different categories. So between the 2 of these, this is pretty substantial coverage. This Jeremy Ross book was pretty expensive. And I don't think I've really gotten my money's worth out of it. He gives the most extensive treatment for each herb. I think there's only about 30 herbs in here, and you can see how big the book is. So each herb gets a whole chapter, as opposed to the others where each herb might get a page. And he gives lots and lots of combination information. He's mainly using classical European herbs. Achillea, Althea, Anemone, Angelica, Arctium, Arctostaphylos, Artemisia, Asclepius. On down the line. There might be more. There might be upwards of 50. Mr. Ross teaches classes. He's got also some massive books out on acupuncture. But he also teaches courses in tasting herbs. He's in England, I believe. Sometimes comes to America. I would love to take a course in tasting, because of course that's one way that the Chinese come up with their classifications, is by the flavor. That's one of the main criteria, the temperature and the flavor. And different times when I've had Chinese people come and visit, they're just running around the garden tasting all my herbs. That's great. And then one more that's quite recent. This is published in Austria, translated into English. I forget how I came across it. Western Herbs from the Traditional Chinese Medicine Perspective. And each herb just gets 1 page in here, but he's got a lot of herbs. So it's a nice, quick summary. Parts used, taste, temperature, organs involved, dose, and then a rundown of actions and indications. The usual thing. And then there's one more source that I came up with strictly online, which is, where'd it go? This was from a website called the Ontario Herbalists Association. And this man, John Freeman's East-West Herbal Energetics Monographs. So he's done quite a lot of herbs, according to the same format. So temperature, flavor, meridians entered, functions, cautions, toxicity, phytochemicals, Western properties, notes. So these are all the sources I've found for of people who've made an effort to classify Western herbs into Chinese categories, and I actually made up a master list at one point. Yeah, so this is a master list I made, which is an index to all of these. There's a list of plants and then a column for each book, and if the plant is in the book, it gets an X, otherwise a 0. I also put in a column for whether the plants are native or naturalized in this area. So just to assist people who live here to know what you could grow or maybe find out in the woods, or just weeds like xiaokucao, just a common weed around here, if you know to look for it. So